So who wants to become a listing obsessed agent?
I'm in.
Bruce, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, they got you. I guess
I'm in.
only one guy, only Bob does.
Bob's the only. Oh,
I'm in.
we're up to 72. So what's the percentage there, Bruce? 1 out of 72. What's that going to be?
It's always the quiet ones that get it done too. You got to remember that. I know you know that. They all want it.
Yep. So, Mr. Durso, what does it take to become a listing obsessed agent?
Focus, tunnel vision, testicular fortitude. I don't know. It's you got to go for it. That's all.
Pick up the phone,
Yeah.
knock on doors,
Action.
call SLIs.
How about a system? Would a system
Systems are beautiful.
would a system allow you to be a listing obsessed agent?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And would that give you a predictable result?
It
It
should.
should. Yeah, it should.
So when you both said it should in stereo, I will say that it will, and it's just a matter of how much time it takes, right? And most people, they chicken out during the process and they never get to the gold at the end, right? And I'm going to share with you a formula, and this is something that everybody can do to get to where they want to be. So hold on one second. Get this on my screen here. I don't know if anybody else has a lot of tabs that they open. It's a problem. Let me just share this with you. So becoming a listing obsessed agent, the first step is to know your outcome. And with our leadership team and our structure, you can get wherever you want to be by following a formula. So if your formula was, I want to get 6, 12, 18 listings. First thing we would do is determine what your outcome is. The second step is to determine your CAC, which is your cost to acquire a client. Okay, that's your marketing budget. So do we have any listing obsessed agents already on the call right now?
I'm listing obsessed. I don't know if it's along the same lines of what you're talking about, but you know the saying, to list is to last.
Right. So do you have an advertising budget, Bob?
Absolutely.
And do you look to spend a certain percentage of what you make reinvesting in your business?
All the time.
And you mind sharing what that percentage that you reinvest is?
It hovers probably around 10%.
And how much of your business is non-referral business? Like, because you have been around for more than 10 years, we'll say, and you have a lot of past clients and network relationships. How much of your business is not through that, where people are calling because they saw some of the marketing investment that you made?
Probably about 10%.
Okay. So
I would say maybe even a little less than that, but around 10%.
So, most agents, what I found is probably 25 to 40% is like business that is not people that know you and call you. And depending on how long you've been in the business, it gets inverted like yours, Bob. So
yeah,
if you're getting a third of your business from people you don't know and you're spending 10%, I'm just making numbers up, Rob, just so that we can have a tangible example. That gives you a 30% cost, 33% cost to acquire the client of your revenue. Okay. So if you're in a business and your acquisition or your fulfillment costs minus your own time was 25 to 35%, I think that would be a pretty good investment. And then if you can invest 35,000 and get 100,000, how many $35,000 investments would you make?
A lot of them.
A lot of them, right? And that's what the CAC is going to give us, is over time, if we invest a certain amount of money, we're going to have a certain expected return, right? And the reason why this is such a rich number is because most people, when they have a slow month or two, what do you think they do?
They slow down.
No, what you think if they're slow, you think they invest more in marketing and going
Pull
after
back.
listings, or
I
they pull
do.
back?
I do.
You've been around for a while, but what do you think most agents do? That was Ron.
Most agents pull back.
They get nervous and they pull back because
Mortgage people pull back, I can assure you that, if that's an indication.
Yes. So if you were on the first peer-to-peer with Lori Caruso, I don't know if any of you remember, but she had such certainty that she borrowed money from her 401k and she studied the market, and then she put the throttle down and went all in. Okay. So if we know what our return on investment is, so if it's 35,000 gets us 100, that's $3,000 a month, gets us an extra 100,000 in revenue. The question is, can you find a way to fund the $35,000? And you're not going to have to wait the entire year to get that money back. It will start coming in spurts. But if you do that right and you do this homework, which is identifying your market area and doing the math, it's a certainty, just like gravity, in my opinion. Okay. Gravity and taxes. So if you identify your total available market, okay, and I would bet you most people have not even identified that. I don't want to put you on the spot, Rob, but would you volunteer?
Sure.
And this doesn't need to be your area, but let's just say that you want it to, get some business in, let's say you wanted to get some business in North Edison, right?
Yes.
Do you know what the total amount of sales are in North Edison, or a ballpark?
Not off the top of my head, but if I had a guess, I in a 12-month period, there's got to be, I don't know, 200,
I'd say
150 in Edison. Or you want just North Edison? It's a lot smaller.
So Edison, let's say has 100,000 residents, probably 35,000 houses, and it turns over at 5%. So that's probably 140 listings a month. And that's what I'm talking about with knowing your numbers. And I don't mean, like I said, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but if you're looking to do an area, you have to go that granular, right? Like how many homes are in your target area, right? And more specifically, what is your target area? Are you going to list at every house in an area? Are you going to do some research and look at homes that have high equity that might turn over more? Are you going to look at homes that have been owned by more than 20 years? These are all ways that you can define a target area, okay? Or you can just say a geographic area, an every door direct route, or a community like Lori Caruso did, where there was, let's say, 500 homes. And in that 500 homes that she had, last year it turned over at, I think, 27 units, which is a little bit more than 5%. And, she got 29 units closed out of that community, which means she had participated in several double ends and probably 95% of the other transactions, mostly on the listing side. So define your area. It could be how many homes expire in 08820 North Edison, right? It could be how many FSBOs are posted in, maybe you do Edison and Woodbridge, you combine them. How many FSBOs are there every month? And then to define the market area, I might even go a little bit deeper and say, how many of those FSBOs ultimately get listed? Has anybody studied like the amount of FSBOs that ultimately get listed? Anybody? Probably about 2/3.
Be low. It's
I
gotta
would-
be a low number.
I mean,
I think-
good.
No, I was gonna say, I think, NAR said 7 out of 10 end up getting listed. I think that was the,
Actually, you know what, Rob, I think that 7 out of 10 involve a realtor, which means sometimes those homeowners go like this and say, hey, Bob, I'll pay you 2% if you bring me a buyer, right? So that counts as one of those
Okay.
NAR stats. But
Fair
we want to
enough.
study and know what the opportunity is, right? So that we can then apply a rate of success to that. That makes sense? So our total available market is a very fluid calculation that we do, but that's the baseline for determining how we become listing obsessed, right? So if in North Edison homes turn over at 5.5% and there's 20,000 homes, that's 1,100 homes that sell in a year. This is the math that we need to do. And being on the MLS, how do you think we can get that data? Rob?
Ask. All we gotta do is ask.
Well, you can run the MLS reports to see how many houses sold, right?
Oh, absolutely. You could do it all yourself. But if you didn't
Correct.
want to do it, just ask.
Okay. I mean, I would even just say that it's pretty easy when you know the MLS to just run the reports. And sometimes there's more reports than results that happen. Like in some of my markets I did this at, it says how many homes sold in a town in a year. And it might say that there's more than 500. And then you have to do it by half a year. You just have to be a little creative and find out what that number is. Take the total amount of homes in the area, multiply it by the, take the listings, divide it by the number of homes, that gives you your turnover rate. Then you can determine what segment of that market you want to target. And I would say if we're going to, do farm mailing like Lori did, or if we're going to go after FSBOs or expireds, I think we need to have a target success rate of between 10 and 35%. And when I say between 10 and 35%, what I mean by that is not that we're going to do a couple of mailings and hope to get 10%. It means that we have a system. Okay. So if we're doing expireds, I wouldn't do just one postcard to those expireds, right? I'd have a series of 5 to 9 cards that I send out. And if you have those 5 to 9 cards that get sent out, sometimes if somebody had a for sale by owner or an expired and they get the 7th card from you, they might say, hey, you know what? I'm about ready to give up. I want to, give this person a call and see what they have to say. If you're farm marketing, right? You want to look at the 500 homes that you're marketing in. If there's 25 that go on the market, you should be getting at least 3 of those, right? 10% to 35%. And then what we do is we simply do the math. And I'm going to do an example here of 500 home farm, which sounds very similar to somebody that did a presentation, Lori Caruso. Turns over at 6% with a 10% market share. Goal is 30 sales, right? So 500 homes times 6% is 30 homes being sold. 10% market share, that would be 3 homes. A 20% market share would be 6 homes. So if we go between the 10 and the 30%, this is how we calculate the math. 30 sales at $500,000 with a 2.5% listing with 20% market share is 6 sales. Did I go too quick? So if everybody has their phone with them, can you just pull out the calculator so you can go along with me here? So 500 homes, 6% turnover. How many homes sell in a year?
30.
30. Now, if we have a 20% market share goal, how many sales is that?
6.
Now, that's six listings, but we might also be able to get some buys off that as well, correct? Because when we put listings on, we might attract what, buyers, correct?
Correct.
So our 20% listing market share is really only a 10% total market share because there's 60 transaction sides. But if we look at the 30 sales at 500,000 with a 2.5% listing, how much is 500,000 at 2.5%?
Close to 12 grand.
12,500. If you do 6 of those, how much money is that, Bruce? 75,000. 75,000 in revenue with a 30% cost to acquire a client gives us a $22,500 budget and approximately $2,000 a month to get 6 sales. Now, if you spent $2 grand a month, do you think it's a strong probability that you'd be able to get 1 transaction every other month if you did it consistently?
Absolutely.
I mean, I couldn't imagine that if we did it consistently, we wouldn't participate in 10% of the transaction sides or 20% of the listings. Can't imagine it. So if it cost us 70, how much does it cost for a postcard when you're doing your mailings? If somebody does mailings, can you just volunteer what that cost is?
Well, if you use EDDM, it's only 14 cents a card, somewhere around that number. Just depends if you're going to do shell. What I do is print up some shells, which is have generic information on and pre-print sold addresses or just listed addresses or whatever message I want to. I would probably say the card's going to cost me about maybe 80 cents a piece, somewhere around there.
Okay, so 80 cents with the card and the postage, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I took an example of 76. Anybody else have a number that's drastically different from that?
I do every direct mailer. They're about 18 cents for the mailing per card.
And how, so you're probably all in about 40 cents with the printing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 40 cents. And I have 1,900 pieces of mail. My route.
Gotcha. So if you had 75, 80 cents a piece, you can do 2 mailings to 500 addresses for $18,000 a year. If you decided to go door knocking and you had a little pop by type gift of $1 to $4 that you drop by, and 25% of the people answered the door, and you did that 4 times a year, that would be a budget of $1,500. And if you did 2 community events at $1,500 each, if it was maybe you went to the Y and you had some event, whether it would be a charity or some type of event you put on for the community, not a self-promotion, but an event that would drive people there and, put your brand associated with a good cause, that would be maybe $3,000. Now with this formula, I'm very convinced that you can get 6+ transactions, but you have to do the math and you have to put the effort in to decide how are you going to determine where your market is. You have to do the research to identify the market. You have to find a way in what I'd say challenging times to invest when everybody else is pulling back. Right? So if you're investing when people are pulling back, is that going to make the results more plentiful, or is that going to make the results more scarce if others are pulling back? What do you think?
More plentiful.
You're going to be more plentiful. So would anybody invest 22,500 to make 75,000?
All day long.
And, you know, a lot of this stuff you could even put on not that I want you to do it long term, but you can put some of the recurring expenses on a charge card. When you have your closing, you can pay it off. This is business math, and you know, business math is something that makes our business scalable and allows us to become that listing obsessed agent. Okay. What do you think? What do you think made Lori different than the competition in her farm, where she went there with 0 market share? Anybody?
Recognition.
Estimate
Consistency,
on purpose.
consistency.
Consistency. And Colleen, do you think, were you on that the first peer-to-peer?
Oh, yes, it was wonderful.
Now, do you think that Lori was kind of hoping it would work? Do you think that
No,
she
she
was
wa-
saying maybe it would work? Or you think she had a higher level of confidence and certainty?
She was certain it was going to work.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain was she?
10.
I'd say she was even an 11 because she bet her retirement fund
Exactly.
on it. So folks, what I'm saying is this is absolute certainty here if you execute it.
Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, where'd you get the 6% at?
So what you would do is you would go into the area. That was Maurice, right?
Yeah, sorry, it's Maurice.
So what you would do, Maurice, is you'd go into your MLS and you would look at how many residential addresses there are. And if you don't know how to do that, you can get that from Every Door Direct Mail.
Mhm.
So if you go EDDM, it will give you all the residential mailing addresses. Then you go into the MLS and you look at how many properties closed in the MLS.
For how long?
You'd
Last
probably you'd want to look at it for a year.
For a year, yeah.
So let's just say that there was where I'm here, there's 10,000, right, in Westfield, approximately, in the 9,000 residential addresses. And I think there were about 4,400 sales. So 9,000 divided by 4,400, what's that? 9,000 divided by 440, not 4,400.
What
What would that percentage be?
9,000, 4,400, you said?
20.
Yeah. 4,400 sales with 9,000 residential addresses.
It's 2%, 2.04.
I mean,
It's about 5%, 4.8.
so 4,400 divided by 9,000 is
Oh,
4.8.
9,000, okay.
So if you were to look at the entirety of Westfield where I live, it's approximately 4.88 or 4.9% turnover, right? Now, if you were designing a farm area, what other factors would you consider?
Well, then you got to see the turnover year after year, and you got to see also who is there, the #1 competitor that you got to see, and see what it is that you can make yourself stand out against that person, to beat him out.
So I was just gonna do my development.
What was that?
So if I was gonna do just my development, which is in freehold, just 500 units. I was gonna do I know how much it costs for the postages. What would be the percentage of, like, for instance, okay, there's 500 units, there's probably maybe 7 or 8 transactions a year in my development.
Okay.
If that's not enough,
Wait, how many?
maybe like 7 or 8.
That's very low.
I'd find another area.
Because everybody, like the lady downstairs, she lives there for 20 years. It's like once you get in this development, you kind of really want to stay.
Right,
It's
but
the ones.
so Maurice, to be at
And that's what I was going to ask. Should I extend it?
no, to be at a 2% sales rate means the average person stays there for 50 years, which I think there might be some math, there might be something not jiving with the math. Right, because if you had a 2% turnover rate, okay, that means that there's 2 sales out of 100. That means if somebody lived in a house for 100 years, it would only turn over twice. That to me seems like really, really, really unreasonably low.
Maybe there's a lot of rentals there, Robert.
There is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's like 30% of us are investments for
Hey,
rental.
can I interject something here? Normally, my farm areas got an 18% turnover rate. It used to have a 36 or 39%. Tony knows because we used to work the same area. But now it's about 18%. And that's kind of scarce. So 2-3%, even 6% is so low that I think you're wasting your time in those areas that are a little low turnover rate.
Well, you know,
What
you gotta check and see if there is 5 or 6% turnover. And then the other thing you want to check into it is also the average price. You know, if you make on one sale, you make $20,000-$30,000, then you don't need, 50 sales. You know, if you have 10 sales, you make 300,000 that you make. I don't know. That's a good living off farm area.
Right. So Tony, you are correct. And let me mute everybody here so I can not have the background. So Tony, if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to talk. So there's an interesting thing that also errors in our favor when you look at these numbers, because if there's 440 sales in Westfield and it's 4.888% in the MLS, right? There are some sales that, quite frankly, people take it off of the MLS and they sell it without it being on the MLS. There are some sales that go without being part of the MLS, a for sale by owner, some transactions that are not part of it. So I would suggest that the number is always going to be higher than what you see in the MLS, right? Because I don't see any circumstance where there would be.
Certainly where you are, it's more difficult to figure out. But here in Florida, we have a great system here. It's based upon what other agents tell me around the country. Well, we have a great system because we have different ways to check how many sales. It's the MLS, yes, you're right. And then we have what we call the tax roll. So we go into the tax roll and see how many people they transfer their deed. Because here they have to disclose how much they sold the property for. And certain other states, I understand they don't disclose. But here they disclose it. So I check both ways that I check and see, if there is discrepancy, that there is discrepancy. The other thing I want to say to the young gentleman that is with us is that I have done this in 2 different areas that they have done. I started with when I came off the boat that I could not speak English. So I used to knock on the door back in 1983. And people love those days, they love to see you working. Knock on the door, and I used to say, do you want to buy? You want to sell? I'm Tony Burrow. You want to buy? You want to sell? That's all I said. And within a year, I had about 8 to 10 sales those days in that area there. And people love to see you working. When you knock on those doors and they are home, they love to say, "Oh, you do this to work, for the real estate." I said, "Yes, we do this too. If I can do anything for you."
So Tony, I have a couple of comments to piggyback off of what you had mentioned, and I want to thank you for sharing.
Sure.
In the model that you have in Florida, can I just suggest that that's a little bit flawed in the numbers in the opposite direction when you look at it that way? Because sometimes, Tony, you'll see people will, if it's a married couple and somebody passes away, they'll do the deed from, or they get separated or they want to do estate planning, they'll add a child onto the deed. where it's not really an available transaction. Okay, it's not part of that total available market. And when you said that the turnover rate was 30 some percent, some of those are deed transfers that aren't real sales. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah, well, that was Ron, you know, Ron.
Right. Oh, Ron, I'm
Ron
sorry.
is more liberal than me. I am more conservative. So
Right.
I check everything. You're right. It's more time consuming, but I check and see the sales, if they are qualified sales or not. That
So-
I am qualified
so-
to check or not.
What I might do is I might look at, 25 of them or 30 or 50 of them, and I might get an average of how many of those are arm's length sales, and then I would apply that average across the total. 'Cause I'm going to
Exactly,
assume that happens. I wouldn't go through all 2,000 sales.
exactly.
So
Rob,
wait 1 second more. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of gets the gist of, we need to come up with a way to define our total available market. We need to figure out what the percentage of sales are in there, just like I did 9,000 homes, 440 sold. Ironically, the potential for business, because every transaction has two sides. So it's
Yes.
really almost a 10% opportunity, but I'm not even looking at the buys that we get from our listings. So Maurice, you had a question?
yeah, so I just looked on, so it's 484 units in my development. 16 units sold from January 2022. Lowest price is 320, highest price is 430. So if I was to do 16 divided by 484, is that's how I would get the percentage?
Yep, that's 3.3% turnover.
3%.
So then that's not enough. I would have to add the other development next to mine.
No, that's a mistake. So what I would say, Maurice, is I would look at the other development independently and see where you have a better turnover rate, right? So in my town of Westfield, when I've done this exercise for some agents, there are parts of town that have a higher turnover than other parts of town. And I would suggest that most communities and townships and counties have areas that have higher turnover rates than other areas. Would you agree, Maurice, Ron, Tony?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Ron, would you agree with that?
Maurice, what you want to do is, first of all, pick an area that you feel comfortable with. Yeah, then you find about the turnover, and then you find also the average price. And make sure that is within your median price for the area and the average price for the area. As long you are within those numbers. For example, in Florida here, the median price is about $550, and the average price is about in the $720. So as long you are within those two numbers, you're not too far away from those two numbers, you're going to have a great time that you're going to have, because it will sell quick and fast, because the majority of the people, they are looking in that price range and you'll have a good time. The other thing you want to consider is that farming, it's like the word says, farming. You plant the seeds today and you got to wait, to grow. It's a very consistent disciplinary thing that you got to do. You cannot just do once and then that's it. Figure out, forget about it. No, the farm, you got to cultivate at least once a month. Be in touch with these people.
So Tony, I want to, and Maurice, I think I'm going to be able to put a cherry on top of this discussion here. And I'm going to do a true false question here for the group. And if you could put it in the chat window, if you think the answer is true or the answer is false. Okay. So let's just say that we do the math. Let's just say that, Maurice's area, when we look at it, is a 4% turnover rate. Let's say Maurice believes he can get 20% market share there. By investing $15,000, he can make $50,000. Is it true that Maurice should do that, or is it not true that he should go ahead and take that investment and make that commitment? Is that a true, he should do it, a yes, or is it a no, he shouldn't do it?
So it's 30% cost of marketing.
Yeah, so if he can invest 15 and make 50 or 45,000, would you do that, Bruce?
If I knew I could make the 50, I would, absolutely.
Maurice, do you think would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell everybody this is a trick question.
But that's what I was about to say. Dang
Right.
it.
The reason why it's a trick question is, Maurice, let's assume that you looked at 5 other communities around there. And if you can invest 15 and get 75 in another community, would you still want to do the 15 to get 45?
But this is exactly what I was going to ask you, because I'm in Raintree, right next door. I'm in Wyndham, right next door is Raintree. I live here.
Right. So I don't want to go too deep into like the particulars. I don't want anybody taking your community either there, Maurice. But what I'm
Okay.
saying to you is what I'm saying to you is don't get tripped up by just saying this makes sense, because if something makes better sense, right? Shouldn't we be doing what makes better sense?
Yeah.
And another factor that we want to look at, Maurice, is forget about just the turnover and the average sale price. You want to see if there are any participants in your market that have a strong market share that would take time to erode. Because although we could erode it, we want to go the path of least resistance, right? So it was a trick question and it was a setup. I apologize for that, but I want to have an impact. And the impact is when you do your homework, if you can get a 30% return here, but if you can get a 45% return someplace else, is it not a no-brainer that you should go someplace else? And
Do both.
Well, I mean, Bruce, let's do one step at a time so we don't wind up getting.
Yeah.
If you try to do too much, sometimes you get intimidated by the cost, right? And then you're going to back out. So all kidding aside, you're right, Bruce. You know, if you can invest 30,000 and make 100, you would probably find a lot of $30,000 investments if you knew you were making 100. But the question is, when you have to wait for the result, you don't want to be anxious, nervous, second guessing that.
You're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Especially that he has 500 units there. That's a perfect number that he can start with. And soon he gets that wheel going, then certainly he can look for another area. And usually the big farmers, they look for the low, the medium, and the high price. Those are the 3 wheels that they get going. That they get going, the low price, the medium price, and the high price.
And Tony, I believe that if you're going to do this, right, the exercise maybe to do a really thorough review might take you an hour to 90 minutes to review it. But if you're going to invest $20,000 a year, isn't it worth 90 minutes to look at it? And then if it looks good, maybe check 2 or 3 other surrounding opportunities to see if they might be better.
Oh, sure. You do this, 9 o'clock, instead to watch a movie, you do this, or
yeah. So
when you're drinking cup of coffee, you do this. Certainly,
right. And Tony,
wartime.
Tony, we have 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try to just go through the second part, which is I think this is the piece that keeps you committed, okay? And I want to talk about the 5 levels of commitment to becoming a listing obsessed agent. Bruce, if I say I want to become a listing obsessed agent, don't do any research, don't do anything, how committed am I?
It's just a thought.
There's no commitment at all.
Right.
Everybody's here because it'd be nice to become a listing obsessed agent, but to actually go through the exercise and put your money on the table, put your time, your blood, sweat, and tears is a different level of commitment. So the first is self-awareness. You become aware of a new idea or skill that you need to adopt and develop and recognize that change is needed. So we have 92 people, 91 now, one person is not committed, 92 people on the call right now. After a massive celebration in New Jersey where a lot of people could have said, I'm not going to be on the call. That's a level of self-awareness and a recognition that something needs to change to improve your life. The second level of commitment is willingness to change. Okay. Most people change from desperation or inspiration. Would you all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
You might see some of your peers in the office are like, oh my God, I've closed all my deals. I have nothing on the books. What am I going to do? Right.
Yes.
Is that inspiration or is that desperation? That's desperation.
Yes.
And working from desperation is not not ideal. Okay. The problem with desperation is that when you get back into the comfort zone, you relax again and you stay in that relaxed zone until you get to the desperation zone again. If this is feeling very familiar and maybe even too familiar, this is for
Well,
you.
that's the worst disease that we have in real estate is, or in sales, I should say, is complacency. That's like cancer to the sales people.
Yep.
Because once you make a few sales, I go to the beach. I don't work, you know. That, like you said, when I see the board to clean it up, then I come back to work, and that's no good. That's no good.
So, Tony, at some point, inspiration must kick in to the point that you're willing to crawl across broken glass to succeed, right? Because at some point, even the best laid plan, you know, has a major pothole.
Mhm.
Okay, it has a big challenge,
Yes.
and it's only those people who are that committed to succeeding that will ultimately optimize and realize all that they're entitled to. Okay. And that analogy of at some point, inspiration must kick in to the point where you're willing to crawl across broken glass to succeed. That's a big challenge.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I want to ask one of our team members asked if anybody's used YLOPO, and I just wanted to ask the group, are there any things that you love or any things that you've invested in that maybe aren't optimal while I take this like 30-second break? Any
What's wide local?
So you haven't spent money on it. It's a lead nurturing CRM-esque product.
No. I have two phones on my desk. I see they have a wireless headset, and 3 hours a day, 50 contacts a day gets my business going because it's
Fantastic.
it's predictable and duplicable, you know.
So I just want to open up, Tony, to see if anybody else has any. Has anybody ever used YLOPO? This is for Jackie Haynes, our team from New Jersey here. Anybody use YLOPO? All right, Jackie. It looks like we have no YLOPO.
That's good there, because if they have to do the job that you should be doing, then you're not the realtor. You know, like Mike Ferry says, you are a retarded.
If you if you have anything that you like, if you could put it in the chat so I can aggregate it and share it with the entire group. Okay. The third level of commitment is intense focus. Okay. Once you've
very
made the
hard to achieve. You know, I follow, I'm sorry, taking the words away from you, but it's hard to achieve that. I saw the players, you know, I watch soccer that all the time, and I see that one team wins because it's more than the other, and
Right.
that makes a big difference.
So Tony, if I could just get through this, because I don't want to, we have 11 minutes left. I want to make sure I get through it before people might have to drop off, and then we'll open it up to some questions at the end. So intense focus, once you've made the decision to change, and I think in Latin, decision means to cut off all other, if you break the word down, cut off all other possibilities, right? That's what a true decision is once you've made the decision to change, you'll enter into a period of intense focus to begin building a new habit. But you're only halfway there. Studies show that it takes between 2 and 9 months to build a new habit, depending on how much emotion is tied to it. Okay, this is really deep, folks. Like the what would I call it? The commitment without building the habit is really nothing. Okay. If you've been, you know, in the lending business, or if you're in a leadership, or if you run a team, or even if you just look at yourself, sometimes you do your business plan. I'm going to come in, make 2 hours of calls a day. And it's now, you know, January 11th. And what's happening? The wheels have fallen off the bus. We haven't built the habit that supports our mission, our cause. Number 4 is at some point during the consistency of the intense focus level, you become committed to the new lifestyle, habit, or routine. You see concrete results and your confidence level increases. This newfound confidence should turn into inspiration, which will carry you a long way. And if I can improvise, the newfound confidence should turn into inspiration, which will cause you to crawl across broken glass to succeed. Does that make sense? And then number 5 is character. Level 5 is when you have truly become the person that you want to be. It's when your habits and values have changed, and thus the destiny of your career and your life, right? And if you study the 5 levels of commitment, okay, this would apply for maybe living a healthier lifestyle. This would apply to the way you decide to manage your money, the way you run your career, you know, the way you influence people around you. Okay. These are all commitment levels, right? I'm going to go a little bit random here and talk about just some random things that kind of came into my mind when I was thinking about how I could contribute to everyone becoming a listing obsessed agent. Okay. We talked about postcards, providing something that gets you automated so you don't have to think about it. You know, Wise Pelican, Postcard Mania, Express Docs. Is anybody coach with Tom Ferry? Anybody on the call? So if anybody coaches with Tom Ferry, there was a when I was doing my research, he talked about I think Josh Rubin's from New York. He had a 9-week expired postcard campaign. Okay. And I thought that was brilliant. And rather than reinvent the wheel, if let's just say it costs $15 to launch a 9-week expired postcard campaign, right? And we had a 2% conversion rate of sending out that campaign. Would that make sense? Does anybody want to, venture a guess? Let me just see. So if you had a 2%, if you mailed out 9 postcards, do you think it would be reasonable? I'll ask Mike Luzzy. Do you think it would be reasonable if you mailed out 9 postcards and you mailed out 100 times, 900 postcards, that you'd get a 2% success rate?
I wouldn't think so.
You would think it'd be less or better?
I don't think that would get the yield that you would want to get, to put out 9 postcards and what it's going to cost you to get a 2%, to get 2% back.
But you said 900, 900.
No. Yeah, but would 2% success rate be very conservative, right? It would probably be higher than that if you mailed out 9 postcards that were well thought out, right?
Right.
And let's say it cost you $15 to do that. So $15 times, let me just do the math. $15 times 100, $1,500. And let's say your commission rate on a listing is $10,000, just to make the math easy, right? So that's $1,500 to make $20,000. Is that a good investment in your opinion?
Looking at it that way, yeah, I would guess so, yeah.
What's the 9-week expired? 9 weeks before it expires or after it expires?
No. So once it expires, you can send a postcard out introducing, hey, if you ever had any thoughts about putting your house back on the market, probably 50% of them are back on the market anyway, right? So then maybe you're mailing to something that either went back on the market or it sold. But I'm saying like a 2% success rate would mean that you're making 20 grand off of 1,500. The real effort here is in putting the well thought out expired postcard campaign and having it where you just enter an address and hit a button, and maybe Postcard Mania or Wise Pelican sends out 9 weeks worth of mailings. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If it costs $30 and you make 20 grand, it's still a ridiculous ROI. And how hard is it to set up your MLS to say, when a property expires, send me the address and I'm going to kick off this campaign? I think it's pretty easy. Okay.
Hey, Rob, Eric Pruitt here. How many expired people are you sending out to make one sale?
So I said, Eric, if we expected or budgeted for a 2% success rate, right, by doing this mailing campaign, would you think that was reasonable? I think it's a fairly low number, right?
So you're saying if you send out if you put 100 people on a campaign, 2 of them would list and end up eventually selling.
Yeah, you're a pretty intense, marketer. Would you think that would be a reasonably conservative number or not?
It's conservative, but in our South Florida market, the competition's become so fierce that every Tom, Dick, and Harry now has Vulcan 7 and all these dialing platforms. They're just hounding these people on the phone. It doesn't even it's hard to give the postcards time enough to percolate. And
Can I just throw something in there for you? I've been doing for sale by owners and expired probably my entire career. And not to step on your thunder there, Rob, but I can't tell you how many listing appointments I've gone on where somebody else's marketing was sitting on the table or a magnet on a refrigerator, and I walk off with the listing because while they're mailing out, I'm knocking on the door.
Knock on the door.
So in an aggressive market, you got to do that. In a more laid back market, you can do the mailers, and I would do the mailers anyway, but you got to go and knock on the door. A salesman is going to get that listing. An agent is going to send a mailer.
So what would you say your capture rate is on the door knocking? Is it more than 2%?
Quite a bit more.
Like what?
If I get at the table, you're going to have a hard time beating me out. If I get in the front door, I'm getting most of the loose listings.
Yeah. So,
Now, we also don't have a lot of expireds happening right now, but you understand what I'm saying. In this market, you got to go to the door.
So, Mr. Durso.
Yes, sir.
We don't know this until we try it, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm just putting it out there so that, everybody has the opportunity. I've been a big fan of door knocking, but I think we need to diversify, and I don't know anybody. We have 87 people still in the close. Anybody ever tried a 9-week expired postcard campaign? Anybody on this call? We have some pretty top talented people here, and I'm going to guess that maybe it's possible that 1, 2, or maybe none have ever done that.
Hey, Rob, Eric Pruitt here.
Yes.
Before the market got red hot, we used to send about a 16 letters out campaign start out the first day, 3 days, and then every 5 days they got a personalized letter from me. Once the market exploded, we've got almost no return on them. Before that, we'd always get people, you're the most consistent guy, you kept in touch with us, they call us to list. And so we discontinued it. As the market slowed down, I was thinking about starting it back up again, but we just exploded 3 weeks ago and everything's selling again.
Eric, that might even be just the area that you're doing it in, right?
I do it all. I was doing it all over.
So if you're doing it all over, then maybe it's not something that is sustainable.
Right.
But I would just say that, for all the efforts that we do, trying different ideas, and measuring the result, to me, it's worthwhile. And at some point, obviously it worked for you. So you were doing it, and then you just measured that it tailed off.
Right. So after 41 years, I came to the conclusion, right? There's a seller's marketing and there's a buyer's marketing for listings. And when it's a red hot seller's market, meaning they're selling the homes FSBO by themselves, you got a ton of FSBOs come on. When it turns into a slowdown market, the FSBOs go away, the expired show up. But when it's red hot, my mailings were virtually the results was non-existent. And I figured out why. It's because people are knocking on the door, they're calling them. I mean, people today, when an expired comes off the market, everyone has their phone, not everyone, but there's 20, 30 people calling them a day to try to list their house. So that's the only, well, we have to try it, but that's a flaw to the theory.
Can I interject something here on the expireds? I mean, I used to do all the things that we're talking about, knocking on doors and mailing and all that. I don't think it's a good idea to call a fresh expired listing that just came off the market today or yesterday or the day before. I think it's more productive if you call an expired listing that expired maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Now, knocking on a door is probably your best bet. Mailing is probably a second best bet. But calling a fresh expired, they're pissed off. They got 15, 20, 30, 40 calls a day. A lot of them are not going to talk to you. They're going to either not pick up or they're going to be sorry they get picked up and hang up on you. So my suggestion is to work on expires that are expired maybe 3 months ago, even like 6 weeks ago, might be better.
So Ron, I'm going to put something out there. If anybody wants to either do some dialing or do some door knocking on tomorrow, 11 to 4 in South Florida, or on Sunday, 11 to 2, send me a text, 908-377-5953, 908-377-5953. I will knock on any doors. I will call any lead source. I will prospect because I want to feel what you're experiencing and see if I can make a contribution to help make it better. So the worst thing that could happen is, I can try to get you some opportunities. And the best thing that can happen is you can get a few extra transactions and get a fresh approach to either calling or having conversations, knocking on doors with people. Ron and Eric, you said those were pretty successful. I'm going to wrap this up, then I'm going to stay on for a few minutes. Good.
Hey, Rob, do you mind if I chime in with I want to talk a little bit about Motto Mortgage, if that's okay? I know it's a little bit off topic, but I do want to share one of the offers that we got from one of our main wholesalers. Up until March 31st, I was given 125 basis points to buy down rate and offset the cost of appraisal. So if anybody has any deals they just put together and they want to run it my way, my rates are fantastic. Also, my closing times, I'm able on average on conventional FHA to get clear to closes in about 12 days, start to finish. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Frank DeSilva with Motto Mortgage, and I'm on the broker side, not a correspondent lender.
Fantastic. So, and to piggyback on that, if, with the market being where it is, if you can do anything to support any of our affiliates, it really goes a long way to help us reinvest in the business. But I want to go back to the content here. Thank you, Frank.
Hey, Rob,
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You talk about door knocking, which I think is an awesome idea. What is the conversation you have? You knock on somebody's door. How do you get into it? Like,
Okay.
what's your approach?
So my initial approach, and I'm going to try to go real quick because this is a little bit long. Be like, hey, I just wanted to stop by and introduce myself. And people are like, well, why are you introducing yourself? And I'd be like, hey, my name is Rob. I just want to see if you knew anyone that I could help looking to move in or out of the community, right? If they say no, I'd be like, hey, my name is Rob. Your first name? Oh, Mike. How you doing, Mike? You mind if I ask, Mike, how long have you been here? And Mike, when it comes time for you to move, would you be staying in Palm Beach County or moving out of the area? And that's how the conversation goes. Okay. That's a really accelerated version of it, but I have very, very low resistance, and I almost think it's unbelievable how good it goes. That's why I offer for anybody who wants to experience it to hit me up at the text 908-377-5953. I will door knock, I will call, I will walk in your shoes and maybe break some of the myths you have in your head. Some mindset things, service over sales, okay? Conversations and appointments. The goal of the first conversation is to earn the right to a second conversation. Maybe that's something for you, Eric, when everybody's getting calls, right? It's not to close on the appointment, but the goal of that first conversation is to earn the right to have a second conversation. And then if we make calls or we knock doors and we don't expect to have objections, then, we have a flawed model. Okay. We have to be prepared to overcome the first 4 no's that they throw at us and be able to have objection handling, dialogue, and etiquette. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some sombering, stats, which are also exciting stats. Okay. Sales obviously are down. Listing inventory is starting to build a little bit, which is good. 2023 sales may be down if we see a 3 to 8% decline. They're going to be down to all the way back to 2012 levels. Okay, so we haven't had a year this lean since 2012. However, the sales prices are significantly higher, so we can still get paid handsomely. In 2012, there were approximately 1 million agents. Today, there are approximately 1.6 million. 2012, there were 4.6 million sales with 1 million agents. Today, there's a possibility we go back down from 4.7 or 9 down to 4.6, and there's 1.6 million agents. So what this tells me is mediocrity and lack of commitment will not survive. Mediocrity and lack of commitment will not survive. 81% of all active agents do 2 or less transactions.
Wow.
Representing less than 45% of the market. The top 6% of agents do 33% of the business. So where do you want to be? The top 6%. Okay. There's a lot of noise with all these agents that are not, they're out of the business, but they don't know it yet because they're not committed. And over the years I've been in the business, I've seen the haves, that the top 0.5%, the top 1%. Okay. They grow in absolute business and they grow in market share year after year in a good or a down market. And I can show you in virtually every MLS that the best of the best, even if the market is down 8%, they're finding a way to grow their business. Okay, so that's the mindset that I want to put out there, is that, you know, there is abundance, there are challenges, there are systems. You have the collective knowledge that we have in this company in New Jersey and Florida. If we were to take all the skills, knowledge that we have, like there would be a super agent that nobody could compete with. I don't care if you're the top agent in the country, you could not have the same skill set that we have collectively. And if we keep sharing, we stay true, we recognize the 5 levels of commitment, and we do our homework. Okay, everybody can add 12 transactions in the next year by making a sustainable investment, sticking to it. It does look like work. You know, you will have to have the courage to say, I'm going to wait it out because I know it's a certainty that I'm going to get X number of transactions just by the math. So our family down in South Florida, please take me up on that. You know, you can't get a better deal. No referral fee, no nothing. I just want to literally walk in your shoes with you, or I want to be on the phone with you and experience what challenges you're having and come through with some solutions that we can share with the entire group. So I know there's lots of reasons why you might not want to do it, but you got to find your reasons why you want to get out of your comfort zone and do something different. So there's any closing questions before I wrap it up?
Well, I just want to say here in Florida in 2012, we had 30,000 closings here in Broward County. So that's 60,000 sites. So there's going to be enough for us to go around.
Yep, the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
All right. I wish you a happy weekend.
Stay on.
Yeah, I can stay on for a minute or two. Go ahead.
No, I'm waiting for you to, tell everybody to go. I just want to run numbers by you real fast.
Can we do that? Can you try to follow the formula, Maurice, and then give me a call? Because I actually have
do your thing, and I'll talk to you another day.
But it should be this list should have went out with the notification. If not, it'll be posted tomorrow with the
Well, I have the numbers. I just want to get your advice on whether or not to go to both developments or not.
If you text me, I'll call you when I'm driving between appointments, and we go over it. And I hope to see everybody in South Florida, everybody in New Jersey. Congrats on a great accomplishment last night, and we look forward to celebrating with our Florida family this upcoming week. Have a great Friday and a good weekend.